Emma Collins had opened thousands of books in her career. She had never expected one of them to answer her back. It happened in a quiet library archive on a rainy afternoon. Emma was examining a 19th century volume whose leather cover had almost turned black with ages. Nothing about it looked remarkable. The spine was cracked, several pages were loose, and the paper had been worn yellow color of old parchment. She turned to page 184. There, beside a paragraph, someone had written in faded brown ink, "I do not believe this." Emma smiled. A reader disagreeing with an author was hardly unusual. Then she noticed something else. 3 pages later, another sentence had been underlined. Different handwriting, different ink, and beside it, "He was probably right." Emma stopped. She turned back to the first note, then forward again. The two readers appeared to have been arguing across time. Emma carefully placed the book beneath her reading lamp. She began examining every handwritten mark. There were dozens. Some were only a word or two, others were questions. One reader had corrected a spelling mistake, another had translated a Latin phrase. Someone had drawn a line beside a passage and written "important." Several pages later, and the handwriting had added "why." Emma leaned closer. This isn't another reader. She was right. Marginalia, the notes, comments, corrections, and reactions readers write in the margins of books can become evidence of how people actually interacted with texts. Printed pages perceive the reader's responses, and sometimes that response survives for centuries. Emma began tracing the book's ownership history. A faded library stamp suggested that it had been belonged to a private collection. A handwritten name inside the cover led her to an old catalogue. The book had passed through several hands. That explained the different handwriting, but something else fascinated her. The readers had not merely written in the book, they had responded to one another. One person questioned an argument, another defended it. A third reader underlined both comments. Then, almost a century later, someone had written a small question mark beside the entire exchange. Emma suddenly stopped thinking of the margins as notes. They were a conversation between people who had never met. She began researching the history of Marginalia. Readers had been writing in books for centuries. Some recorded corrections, some argued with authors, some explained different passages, others wrote personal reactions, copied useful information, and connected one part of a text to another. The marks could reveal what a reader noticed, misunderstood, admired, or rejected, and that made them valuable to historians. A printed book may tell us what people could read. Marginalia could sometimes suggest how they actually read it. Emma returned to page 184. The sentence that had provoked the first reader was still there. Beside it remained those six faded words: I do not believe this. She wondered who had written them. Was it a student, a teacher, a scholar, someone reading late at night, someone angry, someone simply unconvinced? She would probably never know. And perhaps that was what made the discovery so moving. The person had not written the note for history, they had written it for themselves. Then another reader came along, and another, and another. Each left a tiny trace. Together, those traces created something that original author could never have planned, a record of changing minds. Emma turned towards the final pages. There, almost hidden beneath the shadow of the binding, she found one last annotation. It was written in much darker ink. Only one sentence. We thought we understood this one. Emma read it twice. She looked back through the book, the arguments, the corrections, the questions, the confident statements, the latter doubts. The merchants had quietly documented something every generation experiences. What seems certain to one reader may become questionable to the next. What one person dismisses may become important to someone else. The book had remained physically almost unchanged. Its readers had not. Emma closed the cover. The author wrote this book, she said, but the readers wrote its history. She returned it to the archive shelf. For a moment, she imagined someone opening it 50 years from now and discovering this same strange conversation. Perhaps they would disagree with all of them. Perhaps they would add another note. Emma smiled. Maybe that's what the book really do, she whispered. They wait for another mind. And if you enjoy discovering the quiet stories hidden inside the ordinary things, stay with us for the next journey and consider subscribing, because sometimes the most fascinating stories are written in margins.